So picture this. You're settling into a new place, excited for a fresh start, and then the neighbor next door turns out to be a total nightmare. We've all had that one weird neighbor, right? The one who stares too long or makes you wonder what's really going on behind their curtains. We're talking stalkers, strange noises, and one guy who took property lines way too far. Let's get into the first story. It's a slow burn that'll leave you questioning who's watching who. This first one comes from a woman named Emily. She was 20, a college sophomore, and had just moved into her first off-campus apartment in a small Ohio town. It was January, freezing cold, and she'd snagged this cheap one-bedroom above a deli. Think peeling paint, creaky floors, but it was hers. She was thrilled to ditch the dorms, that feeling of freedom. Her building was this old brick thing, split into 4 units, and her window faced the neighbor's place, a narrow 2-story house with chipped gray siding and a sagging porch. Nothing fancy, but it felt lived in. The first week she meets her neighbor. He's this older guy, maybe 60, wiry with a limp and a scruffy beard. He's hauling trash out one morning, sees her fumbling with her keys and hobbles over. "Name's Carl," he says, voice raspy like he smoked a pack a day for decades. He's friendly enough, asks if she's new, offers to help with her boxes. She says no thanks, but he leaves her with this weird smile, like he's sizing her up. That night, she finds a plate of cookies on her doorstep, wrapped in cling film, with a note. "Welcome, Carl." They're lumpy, smell like burnt sugar, but she thinks, okay, sweet gesture. She eats one, tastes off, but she's not rude enough to toss them. A few days later, she's unpacking, curtains still half up, when she catches something out of the corner of her eye. Carl's at his window, 2nd floor, just standing there, staring. It's dusk, so the light's dim, but she swears she sees binoculars glinting in his hands. Her stomach drops. She yanks the curtains shut, tells herself it's nothing. He's just nosy, right? Small towns are like that, but it keeps happening. Every night around 6 or 7, she'll peek out, and there he is, silhouette framed in his window, binoculars up, locked on her place. She stops turning on her lights after dark, starts feeling like a prisoner in her own apartment. By week 3, she's had it. She calls her friend Jess over, says, "Watch this." They sit in the dark, peering through a curtain gap. Sure enough, Carl's there, binoculars steady. Jess gasps, "That's creepy as hell, Em." They debate confronting him, but Emily's not sure. She's alone most nights, and he's right next door. Then one evening, it gets worse. She's cooking ramen, kitchen light on, when the power cuts out. Total blackout. She fumbles for her phone, hears a faint creak, like her front door shifting. Her heart's pounding. She grabs a knife, tiptoes to the peephole. Nothing. But when she flips the breaker back on, there's a note under her door. "I see you too." Handwritten, shaky, no name. But she knows. She calls the landlord, who brushes it off. Carl's harmless, just lonely. She's not buying it. Next night, she sets up her phone to record her window from across the room, leaves the lights off, and waits. At 2 a.m., she hears footsteps, soft, deliberate, outside her door. She doesn't move, barely breathes. Morning comes. She checks the footage. A shadow passes her window, pauses, then Carl's face presses against the glass. Binoculars down, eyes wide, staring right at the camera. She nearly drops the phone. She confronts him that afternoon, footage in hand. He's on his porch, sipping coffee, acting casual. "Carl, what the hell?" she says, voice shaking. He blinks, smirks, says, "Just fixing your lights. Saw they were out." She snaps, "You were in my place." He shrugs. "Door was open." It wasn't. She locks it religiously. She calls the cops, shows the video. They warn him, but he's back at his window that night, like nothing happened. Emily moves out a week later, crashing with Jess till summer. Last day, she's loading her car. Carl's watching from the curb, binoculars dangling from his neck. She never finds out what he wanted, but she's sure he was inside more than once. Those cookies? She wonders if they were just a start. Creepy doesn't even cover it. This next one's from a couple, Ryan and Tara, who sent this in after it happened in March 2025. They were in their late 20s, newlyweds, and had just bought their first house, a cute 2-bedroom in a quiet Portland suburb. White picket fence, big windows, the works. They move in right as spring hits, all excited to paint walls and plant a garden. The place shares a wall with the neighbor's house, a single-story bungalow, faded yellow, with overgrown ivy choking the siding. First night, they're exhausted, crashed on a mattress in the living room. Around 1 a.m., it starts. Thud, 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 like someone's hammering the shared wall. Ryan bolts up. Tara groans. "What's that?" It's not loud, just persistent. Random bursts, 5 or 6 thuds, then silence. They figure it's plumbing, maybe a loose pipe, and crash back out. But it keeps happening. Every night, 1 a.m., 3 a.m., sometimes 4. Thud, thud, thud. No rhythm, just chaos. They knock on the wall, yell, "Hello?" Nothing. A week in, they meet the neighbor. She's this tiny woman, maybe 50, with stringy gray hair and a blank smile. Calls herself Miss Ellis. Ryan's like, "Hey, we're hearing banging at night. Everything okay?" She tilts her head, says, "Oh, I don't hear a thing," and shuts the door. Weird, but they let it slide. Maybe she's hard of hearing, except the noise gets worse. Thuds turn to scratches, like nails dragging down wood. Then faint whispers, too muffled to make out. Tara swears she hears "get out" one night, but Ryan's not sure. They borrow a stud finder, check the wall. Solid, no pipes. They record it. Thud, thud, scratch. Plays back like a horror movie. 2 weeks in, they knock on Miss Ellis's door again. She opens it a crack, same blank smile. "We're hearing it every night," Tara says. Miss Ellis blinks. "Must be your imagination," and closes up. That night, the banging's so loud it shakes their bed frame. Thud, 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 like a drum in their skulls. Ryan's had it. Next evening, he waits till Miss Ellis leaves, sees her shuffle off with a grocery bag. He sneaks to her window, peeks through a gap in the blinds. The place is dark, furniture covered in dust sheets, no sign of life. But the banging starts anyway. Thud, 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 from their side of the wall. He bolts home, tells Tara. She's not there, but it's still going. They're freaked. How's it happening? A few nights later, Tara wakes up to silence. First time in weeks. She's relieved until she hears it. Thud, 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 from their basement. They grab a flashlight, creep downstairs. The basement's unfinished. Concrete, cobwebs, a few boxes. The noise is louder near the wall they share with Miss Ellis. Thud, scratch, thud. Ryan taps it. It's hollow. They call a contractor next day. He says it's just insulation, no explanation. They move out a month later, noise never stopping. Last night, Tara swears she saw Ms. Ellis's silhouette in their kitchen window, smiling still, hours after the for sale sign went up. They never figured out what was in that wall, or if it followed them. Last one's from a guy named Mike, a single dad who emailed me this in February 2025. He's 35, just him and his 8-year-old son, Ethan, moving into a rural rental in upstate New York. It's a fixer-upper, peeling red paint, big yard with an oak tree, surrounded by fields. They're escaping the city after a rough year, looking for quiet. Next door's a double-wide trailer, maybe 50 yards off, with a rusty pickup out front. First day, Mike's unloading boxes when the neighbor rolls up. Grizzled guy, 40s in a stained flannel, calls himself Dale. He's gruff, says, "Stay off my lines," and drives off. Mike's confused. Lines. Property's got a clear fence. That night, he's grilling burgers, Ethan's kicking a ball, when Dale stomps through their yard, right past the oak tree, muttering, "Checking the lines." Mike yells, "Hey, this is our place." Dale glares, says, "Old lines, my land," and keeps going. It becomes a routine. Every few nights, 2 or 3 a.m., Mike hears boots crunching outside. Dale crossing their yard, flashlight bobbing. Ethan starts sleeping with the lights on, says, "The man's out there again." Mike calls the landlord. Dale's harmless, just eccentric. But he's pissed. He buys a cheap security cam, mounts it on the porch. Next night, it catches Dale digging under the oak tree. Small hole, drops something in, covers it fast. Mike watches the footage at breakfast, stomach sinking. He grabs a shovel, tells Ethan to stay inside, and digs. 2 feet down, he hits a metal box, rusted, padlocked. He pries it open. Old Polaroids, maybe 20, all strangers. Men, women, kids, faces scratched out with red X's. His hands shake. He snaps pics, buries it back. That evening, he confronts Dale on his porch. "What's with the box?" he says, phone ready to call 911. Dale's eyes narrow. He pulls a hunting knife. Blade glints under the porch light, snarls, "That's my land, my lines." Mike backs off. "I'm calling the cops." Dale lunges, misses, stumbles into his truck, peels out. Cops show up, dig up the box. They're stumped. Photos are decades old, no IDs, no matches. Dale's gone, trailer empty by morning. Mike's shaking, tells the officer, he was out there every night. They find tire tracks, a knife sheath, nothing else. Last night in the house, Ethan wakes up screaming, "The man's at the tree!" Mike checks the cam. 3:17 a.m. A figure stands under the oak, too blurry to ID, then gone. They move to a condo a week later. Mike never learns who was in those photos or why Dale marked them. He's just glad Ethan stopped waking up at night. Still gives me chills thinking about what was really buried there. And there you have it. 3 scary true neighbor from hell stories that'll make you side-eye whoever's next door. Emily's binocular creep, Ryan and Tara's endless banging, and Mike's knife-wielding trespasser. What a lineup, right? I don't know about you, but I'd be installing cameras after this. These stories prove neighbors can turn a dream home into a nightmare real quick. Which one freaked you out the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you've got your own neighbor horror tale, drop it there too. I read every one, and the best might make it into a future video. So if you enjoyed this, smash that like button. It helps a ton. And watch this next video. For now, stay safe out there.